Hello soulmates, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we're going to be learning how to make this off-shoulder dress that has a stylish design at the upper part and the asymmetric hem design. If you're interested in learning this, please join me while we get started. So on our pattern paper, which is going to be on a fold, I'm going to draw a starting line at the top. Okay, so this line is just going to serve as our starting line. We're going to be also using it as our shoulder line. Okay, so take note that this paper is on a fold, and the reason why we are going to be doing this is because we have a design at the top we are going to be creating there. So ensure you place your paper on a fold like this. So from that point, I'm going to be marking my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waist, and then the shoulder to the hip. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark this point, and I'm going to connect them with straight lines. So I'm working with a shoulder to bust of 10 inches, shoulder to the under bust of 13 inches, shoulder to the waist of 16 inches, and the distance between the waist and the hip is 8 inches. Okay, so just go ahead and impute your body measurements there, that is the vertical measurement, and then go ahead and connect them with straight lines. Okay, so after that, I'm going to label the lines so that we can be able to identify them when we are working on them. So I'm going to label the bust, under bust, waist, and the hip. So now I'm going to come to the upper part, which is the shoulder line, and I'm going to mark the shoulder measurement divided by 2. Mine is 7 inches, that is 14 inches divided by 2. From that 7 inches point, I came down by 1 inch and marked it. And from that 1 inch, I marked 7 inches, which is the armhole depth. And the armhole depth is gotten by dividing the bust circumference by 6 and adding 1.5. So I'm working with a bust circumference of 34 inches. Dividing it by 6 and adding 1.5 should be giving me about 7.1. But I decided to use 7 inches, okay? So from that point, I went ahead to mark it. And I also marked the shoulder measurement divided by 2 on that point, which is going to be my chest line. I went ahead to draw a straight line at that point, and I labeled the chest line. So that point where I marked the 7 inches, I'm connecting that 1 inch I came down from that upper part together like this. That is the armhole depth. So now I'm just marking a neck width of 3 inches, and from that point I'll connect it to the 1 inch I came down from that shoulder line for my shoulder slope. So please take note that for this design or for this dress, we do not need this upper part of the dress, that is the shoulder area and the neck, but I'm doing this for tutorial sake. So I divided the armhole depth by 2, and from that midpoint where I marked it, I came in by 0.5. Then I marked the bust circumference divided by 2, rather divided by 4 on the chest line, and I'm using my armhole curve to connect this. This is not needed for this design, but I'm doing it for tutorial sake. Okay, so I connected the points together. The half of an inch I came in from the center of that armhole depth to the shoulder slope and to the bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. That is what gave me the armhole curve. So now let's get to business. So I'm going to divide the nipple to nipple measurement by 2, which is the bust span, and I'm working with 3.5 inches. So the nipple to nipple measurement is 7 inches divided by 2 is 3.5, and I mark that on the bust line to the hip line, and I'm connecting it together with a straight line. Okay, so if yours is 8 inches, 9 inches, just divide it by 2, mark it, and connect it with a straight line. Okay, so now I'm going to come to the under bust line, that point where I marked the bust span. I'm going to mark 1 inch from both sides, and I'm going to come down from the bust line and mark 0.75. So if you are a bit busty, you can mark 1 inch, or you can still use 0.75. okay, so I'm connecting that point from the 0.75 to the 1 inch I marked on the under bust line. As you can see, I'm using a curve, so just go ahead and connect them together on both sides. Okay, this 0.75 I came down from the bust line is just me trying to avoid sharp edges. I do not want to connect it to the bust line directly because I'm trying to avoid any pointy part when I am sewing or cutting. Okay, so now I'm going to also mark that 1 inch I marked on the under bust area. I'm going to repeat it on the hip line like that and connect it together with the under bust with a straight line. Okay, so just go ahead and do this. This is just to tighten the under bust. Okay, this is help to give the under bust a tightening so that when you wear the dress, it's going to have a perfect fitting at that point. So now that we have done this, we are going to come to the shoulder slope, then divide what we have there by 2 and mark the midpoint there. So I'm going to use my ruler to connect that midpoint to the bust span line, which I marked on the bust line. So as you can see, I'm gonna need to connect them together. We're going to be using that as a guide. Now, for us to get the over bust measurement, I'm just going to come to the chest line and mark 1 inch or 1.2 inches above it. So this is depending on how covered or how high you want that part to be, but I think this 1 inch or 1.25 is okay. So from that point, you can see I marked 0.75 on both sides, and I'm going to be connecting the 0.75 to meet that bust span line on the bust line. So as you can see, I'm using my marker to make this visible for us to see, for us to understand. I really hope we understand what we are doing here. So like I said, I use 0.75 on both sides, which is just to help tightening the over bust. Now that we have done this, we're going to go ahead and impute our body measurements. Okay, this is the body circumference, the bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line, and I'm going to add the dart intake in that part. As you can see, I'm going to add it, replace it there, so that by the time we join it, we're still going to be having the accurate bust measurement. So now I'm going to impute the under bust circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to add the dart allowance there. I'm going to do the same thing for the waist and hip. So I'm working with the bust circumference of 34 inches, under bust 28, waist 26, and the hip measurement of 36 inches. So after that, I'm going to use my cuff to connect them together. Okay, I'll just go ahead to connect both the waist to the hip, the chest line to the waistline. Okay, so I'm going to come to the bust line. I'm going to come below it by 1.5 inches, and I'm going to connect it to the bust span line. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is a bust dart, the side dart. Okay, the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm trying to make the front and back align at the side. The front, the waist to the shoulder to the waist for the front is 16 inches, like I said earlier, but the shoulder to the waist for the back is 14.5. So by the time I subtract it from the front, I'm going to be having 1.5 there, and that is what I'm going to be marking below the bust line and connecting it to the bust span point. Okay, so I just folded it, like I closed the bust dart so that I can align it and connect the chest line to the under bust to give me a straight line at that point. Okay, because when you fold it, you notice that the lines are not equal, and this is me just tracing it through the crease line that appeared when I folded it. Okay, so we might not really need that, because when we fold it, we'll just go ahead and cut it well. So now let's go ahead and create the overbust design that we have at the upper area. So for this center front, I'm going to come down by, okay, you can come down by 0.25 or half of an inch, depending on how deep you want that part to be. So before I did that, I just realized that the overbust dart lines are not equal. So what I did is I took the measurements, and this side gave me 3.25 and this side gave me 3.5. So I took that 3.5 exactly and placed it exactly on the bust line at this other side that is shorter, and then from the upper part I marked the excess. So I'm just going to connect that excess together. As you can see, I'm going to connect it together like that, so that when I am joining it in my fabric, it's going to align instead of having one side longer than the other. Then now when I tried to connect it to the 0.5, I came down from the center front. Okay, I hope you understand what we are doing. So from this other side, I'm going to come down from the chest line below the armhole by 0.75. Okay, this is because I want the overbust to sit under the armhole. I want this bustier to sit under the armhole. That's why I came down by 0.75. You can come down by 0.5. You can also come down by 1 inch. It's totally dependent on you. As you can see, I also use my free hand to connect the curve. You can use your curve ruler, you can use your free hand, depending on what works well for you. So as you can see, I use my free hand first, and I'm using my curve to make it smoother. So just go ahead and connect it. As you can see, it's looking very nice here. So now that we have gotten this design, remember the upper part has another design at one side. So that is the reason why this paper is on a fold. So we are going to transfer what we have on one side to the other, which I have already done here. So now for us to get that part, we're going to work on it. So as you can see, I did not create the curve that I did from one side here, because the design here is different. So now we're going to create that design. So I'm just going to take my tape measure and come from that overbust line I marked earlier. I come up by 2.5 inches. You can use 3 inches, 3.5, depending on how high you want it to be. And now I'm using my free hand to create that design. Okay, it does not really have a particular shape, so I have to use my hand to create that design. Remember, we came down by 0.75 under the armhole area here from the chest line. So I'm going to also come down by that 0.75 and connect this design to meet that 0.75 there. So while I was using my pencil, I noticed that the lines were rough, so I'll just erase it so that I can be able to identify it when I want to use my marker to make it visible. Okay, I think at this point I've gotten the design that I want. I'll just use my marker to make it visible so that we can see what we are doing. So when you're using this, I'll also advise that you use your pencil first of all, okay, so that you can be able to erase any mistake you make. So now I'm just using my curve to make that part smoother, and then I'm going to use my freehand to connect these parts together. If you can use your curve to get a smoother line, please go ahead and do so. So this is what we have. By the time we are closing the over bust, when we are sewing it, it will align together like this and become one, as you can see. Okay, so that is what pattern drafting does. It helps us to see what our design looks like even before the making of the dress. Okay, so soulmates, now it's time for us to get the design had the hem area there. So I went ahead to add extra paper because my paper was not enough, and I'm just going to extend those lines, the dart lines, the hip lines. I'm going to go ahead and extend it to the extra paper we have underneath. So this is what we have now, and we are going to work on that. So for me to actually get that design equally, I'm going to put it on a fold. Okay, I don't want to to create a design one side is looking bigger than the other or so I just went ahead to put it on a fold so that I can have the same thing on that area. So now, as you can see, this is what we have. So I'm going to come to the that line. I'm just going to extend that one so that we can be able to understand what we are doing. As you can see, it's the same thing, it's the same dart line we took from the upper part. I just went ahead to extend it to the lower area. Okay, so now I'm going to take my tape on the center front area and I'm going to mark 6 inches or 7 inches. This is depending on how long you want that part to be. Okay, so I just went ahead to mark 7 inches there, and then from this side of the dart that is towards the center front, I mark 5.5 inches there. So I came to the hip line that is at the side and I mark 4 inches. So like I said, this is depending on how you want it to be. Okay, so from that 4 inches I came in by 0.75 on that same line and connected it to the hip. This is not a straight skirt, it has a penciled, a straight gown. That's a penciled shape. That's why I'm trying to create that pencil shape there. That's why I came in by 0.75 so that it will have this pencil shape. Okay, so that's the reason why we did that. So like I said, you can use 4 inches, 5 inches, depending on how you want it to be, but mine is still 4 inches there. But from this side of the dart, I'm going to be marking 5 inches. Okay, I'm going to mark 5 inches. So remember, like I said, the length is depending on how long you want it to be. You don't have to use the exact length I'm using. So now I'm taking the midpoint of what I have from this dart line to the 4 inches line that we have there, and after taking the midpoint I came up by 1 inch from that point. So I'm going to connect the 5 inches from this dart line to that 1 inch, as you can see me do, and I'm also going to connect it to meet this this hip line at the side. So now I realized that the shape is not giving me what I want, so I went ahead to clean this side and draw it again. That is why it's advisable to use your pencil, so that whenever you are drawing, if you have any issue with it, you can erase it and start afresh. Don't go ahead and use your marker pen first. Okay, so now that I've gotten that part, for me to be sure that this line is going to align, I'm going to close the dart. Okay, remember I marked 5.5 inches there, and this side I marked 5 inches, so it's obviously not going to align. So for me to just get accurate line, I'm just going to close that dart. By the time I take the measurement of what I have there, it was giving me 5 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to mark that 5 inches line that we have there. As you can see, I'm going to mark it and connect what I have from that 7 inches from the center front to meet it like this. This way I'm going to be having a straight line that is accurately meeting each other after cutting off the dart, as you can see. So now I'm just going to open it well and trace the lines with my marker so that we can see it well. So soulmates, if you're finding this tutorial very helpful, please do not hesitate to give us a thumbs up, share this video, leave a comment, subscribe to our channel if you have not subscribed yet. Okay, so now I'm using my curve because I want to see if I can achieve a smoother line with this curve. You can do the same as well, or if you're okay with your curve, you can just go ahead and leave it like that. So at this point, you've actually gotten the hem design that we have here, and that is it. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out, but I'm going to start by cutting out the hem and the sides for us to see what we are working with. That is the essence of pattern drafting. It helps you to see what your design looks like before you actually make the dress. So if you find the tutorial helpful, please do not hesitate to give us a thumbs up. And if you're a beginner in the industry, you want to go into fashion, you want to learn pattern drafting, you want to start from somewhere, we have a beginner class that is already ongoing. It's just going for 5,000 naira. If you're interested, please send us a number on the number displayed on the screen right now. Just send a message there to make inquiry, and then you're good to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this pattern out, as you can see. So I would advise that you follow me the way I'm cutting it so you don't make mistake. Okay, so while I was cutting this pattern, I realized that the upper design we have at the left hand side of this pattern has been cut off. So this is how we're going to just do it. You're just going to take the pattern paper you were using before and just place it there accurately like this. When you're placing it, I'm talking about if you've already gone ahead to cut it out mistakenly, you just go ahead and place it back like this and secure it with the tape. But if not, please be careful while you're cutting it so that you do not cut out the design. So for me to get it back, I just went ahead to place it like this, and I went ahead to cut out the design. So we are still safe, okay? Just go ahead and do this and you have your design back. So after doing this, I went ahead to continue the cutting of the other parts of this dress. So if you have any question, please leave it in the comment section, okay? And after cutting it, I went ahead to close the bust dart for one side of the pattern. As you can see, I'm trimming it to be accurate, and I'm closing the bust dart. I'll just secure it with a tape there so that it doesn't come off. So like I said earlier, you do not need to put you can see that part where I traced the crease line with my pencil. After closing the bust dart, it's already relaxing at that point. So once you close your bust dart, you will get it accurately. So this is the front pattern. We're actually done in the drafting. Now we're going to move to the back pattern. Okay, so for the making of the back pattern, I just went ahead to mark the starting line, mark the shoulder to the chest line, the bust line, and the waistline. The waistline is 14.5. Remember I said that earlier. And then the waist to the hip is 8 inches. So I've gone ahead to mark these lines and connect them with straight lines. I also went ahead to label them. So we'll just go ahead and mark the bust span measurement from the chest line down to the hip line and connect it with a straight line. Remember I said we don't need the upper part of this dress, we just need to work on this side. So I extended the dart line to the extended paper I added at the end for us to get our hem design. So I'm going to take a dart of 0.75 on both sides of the waistline where I marked the bust span. Then I came down from the chest line by 1 inch. This is totally optional. You can just connect it to the chest line directly, or you come down by 1 inch and connect them together to meet the 0.75 you marked on both sides of the waist, okay, for the dart. Now for the lower part, I'm going to come above the hip line by 1.5 inches. So please note, you can come up by 2 inches or 1.5. I think 2 inches is standard, but I prefer to use 1.5 this time. So I'll just go ahead and connect them to meet that 1.5 inches I marked there. So this is optional. Do whatever you feel is fine for you. Now I'm going to impute the body measurements, dividing them by 4. Bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line, waist divided by 4. I'm going to take the darts and add it there, as you can see. And then for the hip, I also divide it by 4 and mark it. And after doing that, I'm going to use my curve to connect them together. Okay, so mates, please note that this dress has a lacing bar at the back, but you can also use a zipper if you want. So now we can also tighten our waists if you want, which is optional. Because I don't want to have too many dart lines and joining, I'm just going to tighten the waist on this side by marking 0.25 on both sides. That is because I want to tighten it with 1 inch, meaning I'm going to reduce the waist with 1 inch. If you want to use 2 inch, you go ahead and mark half an inch on both sides. But remember, this dress has a lacing bar, which is also going to be a form of tightening for the dress. So this is totally optional. Okay, as you can see, I did not impute the dart back on the waist because that part is going to be cut off. Now what we're going to do is going to come to this center front. I'm going to come down by half of an inch because I want that part to be a bit slanted. I actually marked 0.75 and I'm going to connect it to the chest line. But after doing this, I remember that we are supposed to come down from the back by 0.75 at the side of the chest line, which we did for the front, and then I went ahead to connect the straight line again. So now I'm still going to come down from the center front by 0.75 and connect it there, but I ended up marking half of an inch. So this is optional. If you want the back to be straight, just go ahead and leave it like that, but I want the back, center back, to be a bit lower. That was why I marked that 0.5 inches there. Now for this lower part, we're going to get that design we did for the front. Like I did for the front, I marked 4 inches there at the side of the hip, and I came in by 0.75, which I connected to the hip because I said the dress is not a straight dress, it's a bit pencil. That's why we are doing this, to get that shape. So for me to get accurate measurement, I'm going to use what I have for the front, for the back. Instead of imputing the measurement and connecting, I don't want to have different sizes. So I'm just going to take what I have in the front, place it at the back like this, and trace it out. So please ensure you place it properly and trace it properly. Okay, so I'm going to take one side of the front like that, placing it the same way it was. As you can see, I'm also going to go ahead and trace it out. So after tracing it out, I'll remove the paper and then make it clearer and visible. Okay, just go ahead and trace it well so that you can have a clearer and visible line. So this is just to help us ensure that the front and the back are aligned and they are equal. Okay, so after doing this, we're actually done with this part. You just have to create the lacing bars here. So I'm going to be marking 1 inch from the upper line of the chest line down to the hem of the dress of the back. So you can actually use 1.5, you can use 2 inches, but because this bag is going to be an opening down from the upper part to the hip, and I do not want it to have too much opening because of the style of the dress, I'm just going to be using 1 inch. You can even use lesser than 1 inch. It's totally depending on what you want. Okay, and if you've already tightened the waist, you do not need too much opening at the back as well. So you can see I've indicated where the lacing bars will be with those circles I drew there. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So soulmates, we're actually done with the making of this dress. So after cutting it, you're just going to transfer it to your fabric and cut it. For the back, you're going to be cutting 2 pieces because the pattern was not on the fold, but for the front, you're only going to be cutting 1 piece. Okay, so now if you find this tutorial helpful, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and give us a thumbs up. So like I said, for those that are interested in learning pattern drafting, that want to go into the fashion industry as a beginner, our class is still ongoing for 5,000 naira. Send a message to the number on the screen and then you're good to go. Okay, so please do not forget to leave a comment in the comment section, and if you have any question, please drop it there. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.